Again for coming tonight. We're going to move on to the final presentation tonight with the Senate candidates, Gendreau and Edith Tucker. And we're going to open up with 3 minutes for each to make an opening statement. And then we'll go to questions. And we have a lot of questions here. We probably won't be able to get to everything, but we will do our best. So, alphabetical, Carrie, if you would go ahead. 3 minutes, please.
First of all, I want to express thanks for everyone that on the team that got this together, and I hope it does continue. This is awesome. So first of all, I want to say I am not a politician. A few years ago, I dissected the words politic, poly, many, tick, bloodsuckers. So I do not want to be in that category. Faith, family, and hard work are my foundation. I was born and raised in Littleton. My dad, Gerald Gwynn, opened a service station when he and Mom first got married in 1959. There had been 5 previous owners, all had failed. He later went on to open a real estate office and owned and operated that for over 54 years. He is my inspiration. We lost Dad this past January. Most of you know him, Gerald Gwynn. He is my inspiration. He was Littleton's town moderator for 56 years and the school moderator for 25 years. And that is just the tip of the iceberg of the things that he did for the town, for the region, for the North Country. So he is my inspiration. Mom was a stay-at-home mom until my siblings and I got into high school. And then she joined Dad in real estate. It was sometimes good and sometimes not so good. And then together, they taught us about the importance of faith. I used to tell people I had a drug problem when I was little. I was drugged to church all the time. So I am very, very grateful for that basis of the foundation. After graduating Littleton High School, I went on to get my undergraduate degree in South Carolina. I came back to Littleton, got married, and raised my daughter. 20 years ago, I earned my master's degree. I became involved with my local chamber, serving for several years as president for a couple of those years. I taught at Granite State College for 21 years, and at White Mountain Community College for about 8 years. We homeschooled our daughter in high school, and it was then when we opened a business on Main Street in Littleton. Many of you know it as Emma and Company Consignment Boutique. She told me, she said, I don't want to just learn about business, I want to do one. It is still in existence after 13 years. We did sell it in January of 2020. I have served on several boards. I'm currently in my 5th year on the Littleton Select Board. I've served on the Planning Board. I'm serving as a director on Wisville Guarantee Savings Bank and Community Financial Services Board. My husband Bill and I are still small business owners.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to start right out tonight by bringing up what's most on my mind. I took an ad out more than 2 years ago. It said, Edith has taken the pledge. No income or sales tax for her. All over the North Country, from Berlin to Littleton to other towns, there are signs up saying, I have charged an income tax or a sales tax. I have never charged a sales tax. I have not had any kind of income tax. That is just plain wrong. What it is that there are Republicans who believe that the Family and Leave Act is an income tax. It's not an income tax. It is a tax that is taken for a particular purpose from your paycheck. It is not an income tax. It is not a sales tax. And I want to start out tonight by saying that. I want it to be said all the way from Pittsburgh down to Warren and down to Rumney, my very favorite town now. It makes me very unhappy that this is being said. This is not true. I do not believe my companion here would be at a table if things were being said that were not true. And so I am not going to continue with this introduction. I'm going to move on to other topics, but I want this to be said right up.
Thank you. One of the questions tonight, and let's just start with it, let's continue. We'll dive right into the controversy and end up with the easy stuff then. There's some allegations that the tax that Edith just discussed was an income tax, or labeled such by some, and there are allegations that signs have been placed that Edith voted for an income tax. Can you address, is that true, not true? And Carrie, why don't you go first?
First of all, I didn't put the signs up. And, well, in fact, yesterday I got a call said that, and I was accused of stealing Edith's signs. So I would never do that. And I know that Edith has a heart for the North Country, and I know that she loves the people here and wants the best for the people. So I can't speak to that, what's true, what's not true.
Thank you. Edith, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. I think I have said my piece on that. I'm ready to move on.
Thank you. We have some questions for both of you here regarding child gender issue and gender identity, and the House Bill 1431 are kind of the same thing, the Parents' Rights Bill. The Parents' Rights Bill narrowly failed to pass the House. It would have expanded parents' oversight over their kids' curriculum and activities, and would have expanded parents' abilities to sue teachers and others. Could you talk about House Bill 1431 and include the topic if a teenager or child has an issue with a gender identity or wanting to be transgender? Do you think parents have a right to know this issue? And Edith, let's start with you.
Well, I must admit, today I answered a question for I answered a question for the News and Sentinel up in Colebrook, and I said, now there's an issue I'm going to have to spend a little more time on, and it was, of course, parent identity. These are very complex issues. We know that children change rapidly in these years. I don't really know what to think at this point. I do know that anyone who's in the legislature is going to have to pay close attention. Is going to have to understand what it is that they are dealing with and what it is they are not dealing with. And I think we need a great deal more time before we take up these issues outside the committee, because these are going to need study.
I agree that parents have every right to know what is going on in their children's education, in their life, but I would also say it's a parental guardian. Some parents are not raising their children, guardians are. So I would probably add that to it. As far as gender, transgenders or gender change, I know that, and I'm going to be very bold here, I know it's not right. I know that there are certain genders that have dysphoria, that is a fact. But to say that I would support a girl becoming a man, I can't do it. I can't support it.
Thank you. Let's move on to a question. It appears a couple places, and we already talked about it a little bit. let's talk about the state income tax and sales tax and the pledge. And if elected to the Senate, would you subscribe to the pledge of no broad-based taxes for New Hampshire residents, income or sales tax? Carrie?
Yes, I've already signed the pledge. I will not support any type of sales tax or income tax.
And Edith?
Yeah, I brought with me a quotation that I gave maybe 10 days or so ago when the Ways and Means Committee met down in Concord. And it says, in Bob Sanders' work, New Hampshire Business Review, Representative Edith Tucker, Democrat Vandal, noted that New Hampshire is able to avoid broad-based taxes because of the narrower ones. Before we start kicking out all these little sources of revenues, she said, the lawmakers should examine, quote, how we are able to get by without a sales and income tax, she said. She also noted that diverse levies are really a big plus. And I think that perhaps you have missed in the discussion of income and sales tax that New Hampshire has about 30 taxes which are collected on large and small items that add up to
Thank you.
quite a lot.
Moving on, let's talk about Casella and the Bethlehem landfill and proposed one in Dalton. Have you or would you accept a donation or any help from Casella or any other solid waste company? And what is your opinion of the proposed landfill in Dalton? And let me just add a little bit here. There was a question that said, Carrie, you supported the Casella landfill expansion at one time. Carrie, why don't you go first and address it?
Sure, let me address this first. Back 2-3 years ago at the select board meeting, we were asked to support the landfill expansion. At that point, it was like at the 11th hour. So we did, myself included, as far as the select board, we did support that expansion. As far as accepting any money from Casella, I would invite any of you to go on the New Hampshire site, newhampshire.gov, and you can look up my expenditures, you can look up who's donated to my campaign. Everything has to be spelled out. I will share a little bit more with you. One of the things that my dad taught me is that you always look at both sides. I see it a little differently. No matter how flat you squish a pancake, it still has two sides. So my thought was, yes, I saw the HB 1454, and it's absolutely no condemnation to Edith or to Aaron. I think it was well written. I just found in doing a little bit more research myself that there might be some holes in it.
Time, thank you. Moving along.
Does Edith have to answer that?
Oh, no. Of course she is. Sorry.
So lost the thread here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. I spent about 6 months, 7 months, 8 months of my life on that bill, and I think I know it pretty well. What we know is that we need to be paying attention to our groundwater flowing out of that site and towards open waters, the Amanuensis, Forest Lake, groundwater. And make sure that we understand when it is flowing and when it could cause trouble to those fresh waters. That is the most important thing we can know about what's happening up at that site. It is not a good site. It is a gravel site. It is not a sand or clay site. It's not a clay site. So it is not what we need.
Thank you. There's been some questions about the Free State Project. I don't know what the Free State Project is, but the question is, what do you know about the Free State Project? And are you a supporter or critic? And Edith, you go first.
Can you please use the microphone?
Well, I went to visit the Free State Project probably, 15, 18 years ago, up there at Rogers Campground in Lancaster. And I discovered what the Free State Project is. It is a group of people who have moved to New Hampshire because they think they can have the fewest laws possible anywhere governing how they behave. And they have a wonderful time up there. They all meet each other, they greet each other, and over time, they've sort of encouraged each other to run for office. And now, I think we have a problem because we have people who don't want to be controlled, who now run for office. And it's caused a great deal of difficulty in the Republican Party.
I really don't know enough about it to speak to it, so I'm going to pass.
Thank you. New Hampshire, like all around the country, is experiencing significant inflation and increased prices, and especially fuel costs. New Hampshire, a lot of us heat with fuel oil, and that has more than doubled this year. What can the Senate do to address high prices and especially high fuel costs and heating costs for this winter? Carrie?
Right now, there is a program available, and I believe it's in each town office, so people with limited means can go in and apply for it. And I'm not sure exactly of all the details, but I know it has already started as far as with provision. If it gets really bad, I mean, people are saying we could see upwards to $9 a gallon for oil. At that point, I don't know. I don't know what else we can do.
Thank you.
What is both speaking? Yes, I think there are things we can do. We can shift money if necessary from less needed areas to more needed areas. I think the people who are near the bottom and above are going to have a very difficult time making it through this winter. I think we're all going to have to be collective in our understanding of heat, perhaps heating stations in areas that are more crowded. I think we're all going to have to get together. I think we're going to have to ask the Department of Health and Human Services to bring out a day like today and start worrying about it, because we're going to have winter mighty soon.
Thank you. A number of questions deal with separation of church and state. And could you address the separation of church and state and how faith may or may not play a role in decisions you might make in your office, and perhaps address the balancing the separation of church and state with the Judeo-Christian foundation of our country? Who should go first? Is Edith's turn to go first? I think so.
Yeah.
That is a big topic.
And you only get 1 minute. How's that?
We need to the extent possible, keep church and state separate as possible. We need to be able to act in reasonable ways in public office without being particularly designated to one religion or fragment of religion. This is something for all of us.
Carrie?
I definitely support church and state. The whole idea was that the government did not want one particular religion. That's really the basis of separating church and state. The question probably was more directed for me because I was the one that introduced prayer to the select board in Littleton. And the reason why I did is because I was pleasantly surprised when I saw it at the state senate session. Gentlemen got up and prayed for the senators. And then it's also at the House. There's also prayer for the Governor's Council. So, you know, our founding fathers of this country, before every meeting, they prayed. Not only did they pray, but they knelt and prayed. So if we don't believe that God is a part of our country still, then maybe we ought to get rid of our money that says, "In God we trust."
Thank you. We were given a number of yes and no questions, and let me just go down these. I guess we'll start with you, Carrie. Do you support women's rights?
Jim, I'm not going to go through this. And as I was listening to the other...
It's just yes and no, and you can just decline, that's fine.
I will decline all of it.
All of those, okay. So if you pass, then we're going to go to Edith. Do you support women's rights?
Yes?
Do you support men's rights?
Yes?
Do you support the women's right to choose?
Yes?
Do you support gay LGBT marriage?
Yes?
Do you believe the 2016 election was won by Trump?
Yes?
Do you believe the 2020 election was won by Biden?
Oh, I'm off one? No. I'm off one, sorry.
I'm just asking, I'm just trying to throw some balance into both of them.
I'm off one.
Okay.
I think it's getting a little confusing because these are different questions, I think, than what was sent in.
Yeah, I was just trying to add some balance. It just seemed to be kind of skewed one
Yeah,
way.
but
So.
I think we're obligated to read the questions that were submitted.
Then I'm going to pass two on the questions because as a moderator, I don't think they're really balanced. So let's move on.
Maybe Mr. Bruno can come back up.
What's that?
No, I'll continue.
Guy's lost in the sauce.
Let him continue.
Special questions for Carrie. Why shouldn't it be?
Please continue.
I guess we're not supposed to have a discussion, so.
Well, we went through the questions, and some of the questions are certainly partisan, I think, but I think that allows our candidates to answer in a way that they would like. So we had already, a few of us vetted the questions to make sure that they were appropriate.
They just seem to me to be skewed and not neutral or balanced, so I was just trying to add balance. Well, Carrie, it does not want to go through the list, and the only other things on the list is, do you believe a large-scale dump like the one in Bethlehem should be built in Dalton? So we can finish with Edith if you'd like. You've already answered that in another question. Do you believe towns should be making investments in solar and clean energy?
I do.
Yep. Microphone, please.
Yes, I do, because
Just yes or no?
we need to be,
Edith, they're just
These are
yes
still
or no
yes or no's.
questions.
oh,
Yeah, no, that's okay, just want to clarify.
And the other things that we have already talked about.
Just lay it out there, please.
sorry, the last one. Do you believe climate change is real?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe it's accelerated by people?
Yes.
Okay, those are the standard list of questions. Carrie, back to you if you want to make any comment on any of those.
Well, just the first one.
No
women's-
comment, no comment.
No,
Yes,
women's,
no.
let me tell you how
Just
this is.
if she wants to answer yes or no to any of those,
This is-
I think it's fair.
The reason why I say it's a trap, because I do believe in women's rights. We have the right to vote, we have the right to work.
This is, yeah, this is not the question.
These were yes or
Many,
no's.
many
It's not
things.
fair. It's not fair to have.
These were yes or no
people do that.
questions.
Yeah, we have to stick. Oh. Sorry.
For Edith, special question. What are North Country values and how will they be reflected in your activity in the New Hampshire Senate if you are elected? And how does your 6 years of experience in the House prepare you for serving?
Well,
Mike?
thank you. There's no question that the North Country has a very special place in our state. And it's here north of the Notches, right up through Pittsburgh, into the corners of the Connecticut River, over to the Androscoggin. This is our country, and we enjoy every minute of it. Sometimes maybe not quite so much in February, but the rest of the time we certainly do. I think that it has taken me at least 2 years to fully accommodate to the fact that I'm on the Ways and Means Committee. I have a lot to learn, and I learned it. Not all of it thoroughly, but I have become a valuable member of that committee, and those on the fiscal committee, of course, finance committee. The committees are a very important part of the system.
Thank you. How are we on time?
Yeah, you're still
You're
good.
good.
You have about 12 minutes.
How do you feel about ATVs on hiking and bike trails? Harry?
I think the whole trail system is a huge part of New Hampshire, especially the North Country. A lot of businesses, a lot of areas make a lot of money with that, and it's an excellent connector system. I know it was alluded to earlier about in Littleton. Unfortunately, we had lost part of that control because of the state. They ripped up the railroad ties, and we are no longer able to use that one section. So we're trying to work around that. And it's unfortunate, but during that railroad section, they want to keep all motorized vehicles off, which that's good, because then bikers or those that want to ride their bike, those that want to walk, it gives them that opportunity to do that. But the trail system, ATVs, snowmobile trails, I believe it's a huge part of the economy, especially in the North Country.
Edith?
Well, I think we know just where the trail system comes from. It comes really from the beginning of peoples here in the North Country, and in the Northern people, in the Paleo Indians, and out into the current future. We have a trail system. We're going to be using it more and more and more. And I think it will make an enormous difference to the way of life here all year round.
Thank you. Next question. This past June, Governor Sununu signed House Bill 178 prohibiting the state from enforcing any federal statute, regulation, or presidential executive order that restricts or regulates the right of people to keep and bear arms. Do you support this bill? Do you support that this bill became law? Edith, let's start with you.
I don't think I understood what you said.
Past June, Governor signed House Bill 178, which prohibits the state from enforcing any federal statute, regulation, or presidential order that restricts or regulates the rights of people to keep and bear arms.
Yes, I don't think that it turned out to be as simple as he had anticipated.
Carrie?
I definitely support the Second Amendment. I believe we have the right to bear arms. I will say that clearly with sadness, though, as there was another shooting in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri yesterday. But it's not the guns, it's mental health.
Would you support or oppose a New Hampshire container deposit, a bottle bill? I believe there's one in Maine, right? Is there one in Vermont?
Yes.
Maine and Vermont. So, Carrie, go ahead.
Quite honestly, I'd have to look into that a little bit more. I mean, at first blush, I would say it might be a good idea. I mean, it would help out with recycling, but I would have to look into that more. Depends on how it was written.
Edith?
Yes, I think that is an obvious place to look. We need to be doing something to get less trash and make more recycling.
Thank you. Do you support or oppose the Lizzie Station project atop Mount Washington? And I'm not clear on this. Is Lizzie Station, was that the hotel below the summit, or is Lizzie Station the latest proposal to have the sleeper cars on top? Carrie, you can go first.
Yeah, the Lizzie Station, first of all, I'm going to say that we're very fortunate in this area to have folks like the Presby family who invest in our community. They're extremely creative, and they're always looking for ways to expand not only their businesses, but also for the area. So I feel we should be very blessed that we have someone like Wayne Presby, who is I don't think he sleeps. So he's constantly coming up with awesome ideas. So we certainly don't want our natural resources destroyed, but I would, depending on what he does, I think I would support that.
Thank you. Next one. Will you or... Oh, I'm sorry, I did it again. Edith? You get extra time when I do that, because I throw you off.
I'm willing to follow your lead. I do believe that my opponent does understand the Presby family. They are very creative. I also think we need to be looking at all 48 4,000 footers, and I'm happy that 47,000 of them do not have as many people on them as the top of Mount Washington or anywhere near it. And I think as we balance the look at the mountains, I do tend to see that having it in one place is probably a better thing than having it spread all over 48 peaks.
Thank you. And last question, then we'll go to your summary. Will you or how will you work to lower the tensions around politics if you win? And I guess Edith, you're first.
I didn't understand the word.
Will you or how will you work to lower the tensions around politics if you win?
Oh, around politics. I don't imagine that's going to be a problem for anybody on this table, is lowering the temperature of politics. I think we're both ready for whatever comes our way.
Thank you. Carrie?
I think kindness and compassion and it goes a long way, and that's how I'd like to think that I live my life.
Thank you. And now we'll do the 2-minute closing statements, and I guess Carrie, you were first with the introduction, so Edith, you can be first with the closing.
I'm going to repeat what I said before, and that is that I have taken the pledge in the past, no income, no sales tax. I'm still hanging in there with that. I don't know how many signs are all over District-1 saying that I did something I didn't do.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I want to recap some of the things we're going through right now as a country. 70% of the voters think this country is headed in the wrong direction. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Our open border policy has allowed over 3 million immigrants into the U.S. in the past 3 years. And I was talking to a gentleman up in Pittsburgh, and it's coming over from Canada. So it's not like we're looking at the southern border, it's in our district. Serious crime is on the increase. We have gone from energy independence to energy dependence. The stock market is down 25% since Biden took office, which is reducing our 401ks. Talked to several people that are having to delay their retirement because of it. The average price of gas, I don't even have to share that with you. We have a staffing and an employee shortage. We have a housing shortage. Small businesses are suffering. The family is unraveling. Today's youth are more lonely than ever, and that's a fact. We need to support parental rights. Education, not all children learn the same way. And the big issue is, what are they being taught? You know, we took the Bibles out of the schools in 1963. Prayer stopped soon after, and I don't even know if the Pledge of Allegiance is still being said. Mental health issues and more substance abuse, increase in needless shootings. This is why I care, and I want to advocate for my fellow neighbors here in the North Country. I care about the people in the North Country and all they represent. Thank you again, and please vote for me on November 8th.
Thank you both for participating. Thank you to workers who have set this up, and to you. Are there any concluding remarks by anyone?